Влад, убери микрофон, он мешает. В сторону.
Данил, пардон.
Dear colleagues, dear students, dear friends, let me first welcome Mr. Ted Terner from United Nations Association of Russia and Moscow State Institute of International Relations. Ted Terner is known as the founder of the cable television network CNN, the first dedicated 24-hour cable news channel. In 1991, Mr. Terner became the first media figure to be named Time Magazine's Man of the Year. Ted is known as a philanthropist, using his time and resources to make the world better and safer place for future generations. He created the Terner Foundation, the Nuclear Threat Initiative, the Captain Planet Foundation, and the Terner Endangered Species Fund. In 1998, Ted gave a historic $1 billion gift to support United Nations causes and activities, which created the United Nations Foundation. The United Nations Foundation is an advocate for the UN and a platform for connecting people, ideas and resources to help the United Nations solve global problems. The UN Foundation has shown it is easy for individuals and organizations to have a global compact. For instance, escalating violence has driven more than 2 million people from their homes in northwestern Pakistan. The UN Foundation is partnering with the UN Refugee Agency to respond to the urgent need for 150,000 anti-malarial nets to save refugee lives. In Ethiopia, the United Nations Foundation has shown that a sheep can save a girl's life. As you know, Ethiopia's child marriage rates are among the highest in the world, and half of all girls in some areas are married before their 15th birthday. Working with the UN, Ted Terner's UN Foundation created a project to delay child marriage by providing a $25 ship to families who commit to keeping their daughters in school and to delay marriage. As you know, Ted Terner created the Google Games in reaction to the political troubles surrounding the Olympic Games of the 1980s.
Thank you. Well, this is I'm really touched by seeing such a big crowd. Thank you. We're going to mostly have question and answers, but I thought I'd give you a little bit of my background, how I got interested in Russia. When I was a boy, growing up in the United States, I was very concerned. They used to show movies of atomic bombs going off, and I was really worried. I watched the news on TV and read the newspapers, and I was worried about, it was the Soviet Union then. I was worried about, a war between the Soviet Union and the United States, and particularly a war that might go nuclear and kill everybody. And just, so when I got a little bit older and could afford to come over here, I came over. And I think 1982 was my first trip over, and I just started CNN, so I was in the news business, and I wanted to use my news media to try and see if there was any way that I could bring our countries closer together so that we wouldn't have a war. Because if you make friends, if you only have just one friend in another country, you don't want to go to war with that country. Because nobody wants to go to war with their friends. I mean, it's getting to the point now, too, where I really believe that people aren't going to want to go to war at all. I mean, the only ones that are doing it, other than the United States and Afghanistan, I don't know how much longer we'll be there. Did you see Abdullah this morning? I was watching the news when I was working out, and Abdullah has withdrawn from running against the president in Afghanistan. What a mess that place is. we should have let you have Afghanistan. In fact, maybe before I leave this afternoon, would you take Afghanistan if I give it to you? I can't give it to you, but it's yours if you want it. Anyway, so I came over and the boycott of the Olympics really concerned me, because when you're not even playing sports together, this is the boycott of the Moscow Olympics that President Jimmy Carter did in 1980. And then what happened right after that is the next Olympics was in Los Angeles in 1984, and the Russians didn't go either. So we had gone 8 years without our international Olympic teams competing with one another. And sports is so important over here and in the United States, particularly Olympic sports. And it was just terrible. So I had friends in Russian television and the government and in the sports committee, and we got together with the three of them and we made a partnership to put on the games, and we would do the first one. This was back in 1984, 85, and we would do the first one in Moscow, because you already had all the venues ready, because you'd already had the Olympics there in 1980. And we did, and we never got into an argument. I mean, here I was a capitalist company, and my partners was the government of the Soviet Union. And we thought if we ever had a disagreement about things, since it was 50-50, that we decided we would go to arbitration in Sweden. There's an international arbitration committee in Sweden, and we put that in the contract that we signed, that we would go and let them decide if we couldn't agree.
So let me first start. You as the president of your foundation, can you, would you so please to...
I'm the chairman, I'm not the
Chairman.
president.
Okay, chairman. And would you so please to give us a vision of the United Nations reform? But now you see we see new tendency that politicians start to speak not UN reform but UN development for the better efficiency and relevance. So give us your vision for the United Nations reform of development.
Well, you know, I think that they could reform a little bit. Anything can always be better, and the United Nations is included in it. I really like the United Nations just the way they are, but they could be a little bit better. I think personally that they ought to expand the Security Council from 5 to 10 members and make it more democratic and more representative. I think they ought to have a representative from Africa. I think they ought to have a representative from South America. I think that they ought to have just five members instead of 10, and then maybe do away with the veto. The veto of one country shouldn't be able to stop everything else that everybody else, in my opinion. But their role in development, certainly, the other thing you mentioned, I think we have an obligation, the wealthy countries of the world, to help those less fortunate than ourselves, the really poorest people. 1 billion people, over a billion, 100 million people go to bed hungry almost every night. But that's a problem of overpopulation. When I was born, there were only 2 billion people in the world in 1938. And now there's almost 7 billion people, 3.5 times as many people in